Hello Year 3, welcome to today's lesson. In this video we're going to be looking at the great Kapok tree, and that is going to be helping you with your lesson 4 of your literacy lessons that you're going to be doing this week. Okay. So this book is by Lynn Sherry, and yeah, it's quite an interesting book and I hope you enjoy it, and the contents of what we cover in this book is going to help you with your homework for the rest of the week. Okay? So pay attention, I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. So, The Great Kapok Tree, The Tale of the Amazon Rainforest by Lynn Sherry. Two men walked into the rainforest. Moments before, the forest had been alive with the sounds of squawking birds and howling monkeys. Now, all was quiet. The creatures watched the two men and wondered why they had come. The larger man stopped and pointed to the great Kapok tree. Then he left. A smaller man took the axe he carried and struck the trunk of the tree. Whack, whack, whack. The sounds of the blows rang through the forest. The wood of the tree was very hard. Chop, chop, chop. The man wiped off the sweat that ran down his face and neck. Whack, chop, whack, chop. A boa constrictor lived in the Kapok tree. He slithered down its trunk to where the man was sleeping. He looked at the gash the axe had made in the tree. Then the huge snake slid very close to the man and hissed in his ear. Senor, this tree is a tree of miracles. It is my home, where my generations of my ancestors have lived. Do not chop it down. A bee buzzed in the sleeping man's ear. Senor, my hive is in this Kapok tree, and I fly from my tree to tree and flower to flower, collecting pollen. In this way, I pollinate the trees and flowers throughout the rainforest. You see, all living things depend on one another. A troop of monkeys scampered down the canopy of the Kapok tree. They chattered to the sleeping man. Senor, we have seen the ways of man. You chop down one tree, then come back for another and another. The roots of these great trees will wither and die, and there will be nothing left to hold the earth in place. When the heavy rains comes, the soil will be washed away and the forest will become a desert. A toucan, a macaw, and a cock of the rock flew down from the canopy. Senor, squawked the toucan, you must not cut down this tree. We have flown over the rainforest and see what happens once you begin to chop down trees. Many people settle on the land. They set fires to clear the underbush, and soon the forest disappears. Where once there was life and beauty, only black and smouldering ruins remain. A bright small tree frog crawled along the edge of a leaf. In a squeaky voice, he piped in the man's ear, Senor, a ruined rainforest means ruined lives, many ruined lives. You will leave many of us homeless if you chop down this great Kapok tree. A jaguar had been sleeping along a branch in the middle of the tree. Because he spotted his coat blended into the dappled light and shadows of the understory, no one had noticed him. Now he leapt down and padded silently over the sleeping man. He growled in his ear, Senor, the Kapok tree is home to many birds and animals. If you cut it down, where will I find my dinner? Several anteaters climbed down the Kapok tree with their youngs clinging to their back. The unstriped anteater said to the sleeping man, Senor, you are chopping down this tree with no thought for the future, and surely you know that what happens tomorrow depends on what you do today. The big man tells you to chop down a beautiful tree. He does not think of his own children, who tomorrow must live in a world without trees. A three-toed sloth had begun climbing down from the canopy when the men first appeared. Only now did she reach the ground, plodding ever so slowly over to the sleeping man. She spoke in her deep, lazy voice. "Senhor, how much is beauty worth? Can you live without it? If you destroy the beauty of the rainforest, on what would you feast your eyes?" A child from the Yanomamo tribe who lived in the forest knelt over the sleeping man. He murmured in his ear, "Senhor, when you wake, please look upon us with new eyes." The man awoke with a start. Before him stood the rainforest child, and all around him, staring, were the creatures who depended on the great Kapok tree. What wondrous and rare animals they were. The man looked about and saw the sun streaming through the canopy. Spots of bright light glowed like jewels amidst the dark green forest. Strange and beautiful plants seemed to dangle in the air, suspended from the great Kapok tree. The man smelled the fragrant perfume of the flowers. He felt the steamy mist rising from the forest floor. But he heard no sound, for the creatures were strangely quiet. The man stood and picked up his axe. He swung back his arms as he threw... Sorry, let's go through that last paragraph again, because this is quite a nice way to end it. So we'll see what happens. The man stood and picked up his axe. He swung back his arms as though to strike the tree. Suddenly, he stopped. He turned and looked at the animals and the child. Now, before I read this last two sentences, I want you to have a think. How do you think this story ends? Do you think he decides to chop down the tree? Or do you think he decides to listen to the animals and the child who were telling him not to? So you can pause this video if you'd like at this moment, have a chat with whoever you're with, or just have a think on your own. Do you think he cuts down the tree? Right, if you pause it, or even if you didn't, let's read that last sentence. He hesitated. Then he dropped the axe and walked out of the rainforest. The end. Now, I hope you enjoyed that story and you found it useful. Now, for your homework, you're going to be looking at the motivations of these characters. So you're going to be looking at why each of the characters were telling the young man not to cut down the tree. Okay? It's on your sheet. The format of it's quite easy to follow. So you're just thinking about why each of those animals were motivated. So rather, why they didn't want the man to cut down the tree. Okay, so just go back, pause it, have a look at each of those different animals, think about what they say, and think about why they don't want this man to cut down the tree. Good luck, and wait till our next video.